Hello and welcome to the graduation ceremony of the Geneva School of Diplomacy, Gsd, here in Geneva, Switzerland. It's a very beautiful day in Switzerland, and this year, as you know better than we do, we're meeting in a virtual graduation ceremony, which shows that we can be together no matter what challenge is thrown at us. This year our special guests will be the royal couple of Romania, whom I'll introduce a little later. I have with me here also His Excellency our Dean, Dr. Sultan Khan, and of course all of you students and your loved ones, of course, distinguished guests and friends of GSD. So welcome, it's a beautiful day, and I think the pandemic, tragic as it has been for so many people, is also a reminder of all that you have been learning for the last several years here. You've been trained and educated to think of the great problems of the world, and here is one right at your doorstep, and I count on you to observe what's happening, learn from it, and apply all the valuable things that you've learned. You know, scientists tell us that planet Earth is about 4.5 billion years old. And we humans, including your ancestors, appeared about 800,000 years ago. And I mention that because a simple subtraction of the latter from the former tells us that planet Earth was empty of all humans for very much most of its existence. And what it has done before, it can do again. So we must learn from the pandemic that we must tackle those big problems: climate change, the destruction of our climate, the danger of nuclear war, vast violations of human rights, disparities of wealth and poverty. But this is a happy day, so I congratulate you. You've worked hard, you've learned a lot, and now you're called upon to join the ranks of those of us who struggle against this pandemic and those other problems you discussed so well in the last few years. You know, the writer Albert Camus once wrote, "Man never expects the plague, and man never expects war, but the plague always comes, and war always comes. And for several years you have studied what to do if that happened. And now you will never forget this day where nature is showing you in person how great its challenge to our existence as humans can be." But it's a beautiful day. Life goes on. You still laugh and talk and meet with your loved ones and so on. And our planet, which I mentioned in all its age, has already survived meteors, rains of comets, fireworks displays of volcanoes and their liquid lava in oceans, long silences of ice age. And in those ice ages, nevertheless, few in number though we were still able to produce great art on the icy walls of buried caves. We've survived great wars and murder by industrial methods such as used in Auschwitz and elsewhere. And as somebody once said, since Auschwitz we know what man is capable of, and since Hiroshima we know what is at stake. So we've been at pains to teach you over the last few years that these great problems existed despite the easy lives we've all had in recent years. And now comes the pandemic to show you in person what you're up against and how much your leadership is needed. So it makes me feel very good and very positive to know that we have produced in you another generation of educated leaders, so that along with you and other groups of young people like you around the world, we are adding to those numbers who will fight back against greed, against racism, against warmongering, against all those things, and in favor of all those ideals that we hold valuable. I'm standing here on the beautiful grounds of the Geneva School of Diplomacy and our chateau just behind us. It's a sunny day and we're in the middle of a pandemic, but we go on, life goes on, we're happy, we laugh, but we must be more prudent, more committed, and more aware of the problems ahead of us and ahead of the planet as a whole. I spoke on the phone to several colleagues and friends in the last few days, and in numbers of countries, all in exactly the same position. They said, well, Dr. Murphy, we're easing up a little bit now, we're starting to go out a little more, but we fear a new wave of the pandemic. We're worried, when will a vaccine come? And this from 6 different countries and 6 different people. So in one way, the pandemic unites us all as facing the same problems. And we're facing the same problems in regard to climate change. And we're facing the same problems in regard to keeping nuclear war at bay. And who's going to deal with these problems? You are. You and people like you the world over. So today is a day of celebration. It's a sunny day, it's a happy day, and I call on you to apply your education, your commitment, your humanity to making this planet a safer one. Yes, Camus wrote that man never expects the plague, and man never expects war, but they always come. So who is going to make this a better world? You are. Just yesterday, a giant demonstration took place here next door to me against the racist murder by police of a black man in the United States. That's how concerned now people in one part of the planet are about what is happening elsewhere. I'm standing next door to where the League of Nations was created after the First World War, so that war would never again occur. And yet within a generation, we had the Second World War and the United Nations was created, same buildings, New York and here, right beside where I'm standing. Here in the most diplomatic neighborhood on the planet, we must be aware that the world's leadership at the moment is terrible, mediocre. Any one of you young graduates would do a better job than many of the leaders of major powers today. Of that I am certain. It's not necessary to accept all those invasions of our privacy, all those invasions of violations of human rights. Speak your truth quietly and clearly. I'll conclude these welcoming remarks by saying, if I were in the presence, in a press conference of President Trump, Don the Con, I would ask a question and I would not allow him to shut me up. I would say, Mr. President, my question is this. What color exactly do you think God is? And do you think she would approve of what you are doing? Would she be happy that you are sowing hatred and division in the world? Would she be happy that you're adding to violence and racism? You, graduates, don't be afraid to ask those kinds of questions. Ask with whatever respect you wish to put in your voice, but speak your truth and speak it quietly and clearly. And frankly, I am very happy today and proud of the fact that with you we have a new generation, a new batch of graduates, because your presence is needed so much in the world today as the pandemic itself is reminding you and your loved ones from morning to evening. Congratulations. It is a beautiful day in Switzerland, and we count on you to make this world also a sunnier and happier place. Thank you for joining me.
Excellencies, Honorable President of GSD, faculty members of GSD, ladies and gentlemen, class of 2020. Our working environment today remains challenging, with the coronavirus pandemic being unprecedented in our lifetime and having caused enormous human suffering and economic hardship around the world. This has also made us conduct this exceptional virtual graduation ceremony this year, but we hope to include you all and your family and your friends at next year's graduation ceremony in 2021. In 10 years, the only thing we will remember will not be the virus itself, but the changes that it has imposed on our political, economic and social structures. In fact, C19 has laid deep injustices and inequalities based on income, gender, race and religion. Returning to the system that created these instabilities is not the way to go. There is no going back. In fact, all our efforts must go forward towards building a better world and a better system after what we have learned from the last 6 months. Like the UN Secretary General said, the enemy today is not the virus, but the fear, stigma and rumors. We have to learn to live in a world with viruses like we have already with Ebola, HIV, AIDS and others. We have to adjust our lifestyle to these new changes dictated upon us. After 9/11, we had the tough security procedures. After C19, we will have the tough health procedures. These are challenging times for the UN in its 75 years of history and for the international community. The greatest risk of the pandemic would be losing sight of the most fundamental challenges facing humanity, like the effect of climate change, but also persecution and violence created by the ongoing wars and conflicts that has resulted with over 70 million forcibly displaced persons as reported by UNHCR on the World Refugee Day on 20 June 2020. Coronavirus stopped economic growth and prosperity, but unfortunately not wars, conflicts, persecution and forced displacement. Despite the call by the UN Secretary General for a global ceasefire, UN member states neglected their responsibility to work with the UN towards political solutions leading to peace and security. Instead, the world remains at war with the war agenda and war industry on the rise. Absence of honest multilateral diplomatic efforts and conflict resolutions have also contributed to this effect. Ladies and gentlemen, fight against racism is at the core of the UN work. We in the international community have a responsibility to fight racism. We have to stop racism. We have to raise our voices against the expression of racism and instance of racist behavior. We need to speak out, as the only wrong thing to say today is to say nothing. This is not a question of impartiality. We have to take a stand. I'm happy how quickly young people like you responded with strong advocacy and affirmative action against racism, and by participating earlier this month in demonstrations around the globe, expressing their solidarity with the victims and sharing concerns. No country or community can solve the complex political problems of our world alone. We must come together with stronger unity and global solidarity to address these challenges and build a safer and more stable future. We need to stop the culture of fear and rebuild trust and confidence in the international community. We need to respond collectively to these global challenges as called for in the UN Charter rather than individually, as we saw recently in the response to the pandemic. These are global problems that require global solutions under the coordination of the United Nations. This is where diplomacy remains an important tool to rebuild multilateral dialogues, consultation, negotiations, and interaction between member states of the UN and all parties to the conflict, including state and non-state agents. This is where the work of university institutions like the Geneva School of Diplomacy becomes ever more fundamental in diplomatic education, research and training. This is where you, the class of 2020, have an important role to play in the future. C19 has provided you with this unique opportunity to reimagine and begin to see how you are, who you are, and how you can build a better world, political and socio-economic structure. I feel proud to have served as Dean of GSD and to have got to know many of you over the last years. Whatever career path you would take in bilateral or multilateral diplomacy always remember the concept of real diplomacy by dialogue that we discussed on many occasions together. Keep in mind that while cyber diplomacy is an important tool in your work, it has no boundaries or rules. It should be applied with full obligation and accountability. You are all e-diplomats and should use social media in your work, but with responsibility. Understanding the wide spectrum of political and regional perspectives that shape our world today and understanding the importance of perceptions would provide you with better political judgment in your future work in diplomacy and international relations. Always remember that your personal contributions are important and could complement the efforts of the UN and the international community to find political solutions to the current conflicts and humanitarian crisis. This would lead to peace and security and the return of millions of forcibly displaced people to go home in safety and dignity. Without the return of people, there is no political solution. Dear class of 2020, congratulations, well done. I wish you all the best in your future careers and I look forward to remaining in contact with you through our alumni network. Have a wonderful summer. Go to the beach, listen to rock and roll. Things will bound to get better. Thank you very much.
We come now to that part of the ceremony which gives me particular pleasure. Our special guests this year on this special virtual graduation are the royal family of Romania. Her Majesty Princess Margarita of Romania and her husband Prince Radu. It used to be said, and I fully agree, that from those to whom much is given, much is demanded. And this royal couple, knowing what is demanded of people of that high position, have met not only their obligations, but their ideals, same as our ideals, so nobly, with such commitment, such dedication, and such charity over so many decades, that it is a real honour and privilege for us to receive them here as our guests. This being a special year, since we are engaged in a virtual graduation, we will now confer the honorary degrees on the couple, and we expect and look forward to seeing them here next year for when we hand over the diplomas with the full citation. When our graduation, we are sure, will be much bigger and just as successful as this one. So I address my remarks now to Her Majesty Princess Margarita. Madame, it's a privilege that you are our special guest this year. And it is an honor for me, in recognition of your decades of committed work on behalf of humanitarian ideals through the Red Cross and elsewhere, and for the fine example you set, to hereby officially confer upon you the university degree of Doctor of International Relations, honoris causa, of the Geneva School of Diplomacy and International Relations. The full citation, Madam, because many are your attributes and contributions, will be on the diploma itself and the gown when we see you next year. And when that comes, that happy day also comes, we will ask you to take your tassel and move it to the left-hand side, like this, the side, the side of the heart. But right now, please consider yourself, Madam, as of this moment, officially Doctor of International Relations of the Geneva School of Diplomacy. And Madam, our audience will hear you speak in just a few moments. Sir, Prince Radu, the same thing for you, sir, if I can manage this here. So many years of committed service, showing the world what royalty is and what it can mean, and that true nobility is a commitment to the ideals of the United Nations, the international community, and humanitarian action. What you've achieved is most impressive, and it is our honor and our privilege to confer upon you officially right now the university degree of Doctor of International Relations honoris causa of the Geneva School of Diplomacy and International Relations. Madame and Monsieur, please consider yourself, as of this moment, doctors honoris causa of the Geneva School of Diplomacy. Thank you so much indeed. And we are honoured that you're here, and we look forward to seeing you next year. Thank you.
Good day to everybody. I would like to thank you, Mr. President, the professors and the students, all of you, for the honour of having bestowed on my husband and on myself this honorary doctorate from your university. This is a particularly important and meaningful gesture for us, especially for me. I grew up in Geneva. I was dedicated to humanitarian and international work since my youth, and therefore this honor is very much in line with my life and my life story. And I'm sorry we can't be together due to this situation. Hopefully we will be soon. And just to let you know that this gesture of yours is also an inspiration, because at the moment my humanitarian work has obviously been intensified due to the COVID-19 crisis, and particularly in the two organizations I'm most involved with, which is the Romanian Red Cross, of which I'm a president, and has been doing exceptional and effective projects around my country and also helping abroad when it's possible. And also my own humanitarian foundation, which is dealing particularly with youth and elderly who are vulnerable at this time. And we are developing more projects for intergenerational programs which bring together these two groups who are in particular danger at this moment, and we have been very effective. So thank you for this inspiration. Thank you for believing in what we're doing, and see you soon.
Mr. President, professors and distinguished students of the Geneva School of Diplomacy and International Relations, I would like to start by saying how grateful I am for your wonderful gesture to bestow onto me the title of Doctor Honoris Causa of your university. And also to tell you how much I believe that this prestigious title comes as a recognition of what the Romanian Crown has been doing for 154 years now, and also as a recognition of the social work of Her Majesty Margareta of Romania, and last but not least, the recognition of Romania's achievements in the last 30 not very easy years that passed after the fall of the communist regime. Obviously, we are still locked down. The Romanian regulations do not allow yet to have a public activity like before. So this message is recorded in the heart of Transylvania, in the village of Săvârșeni, where the royal residence acquired by King Michael last century is. I would like to start by what impressed me most in your university last year when I first visited it. The first extraordinary impression is the principle that governs your school and your teaching and your process of learning, and that is to govern means to serve. This is almost, if not identical, to what our predecessors, King Carol I, the founder of the Romanian relatively young dynasty, only 150 years old, is by historical standards a very young institution, and of everyone else who succeeded him until today. Indeed, to govern is to serve. And this truth is today more important than ever, when the most vibrant and established democracies in the world experience a dramatic loss of confidence of their societies into the leaders. And that is something about which your university could do a lot. The second very impressive aspect of your activity is that you embrace an extraordinarily vast number of beliefs, countries, cultures, languages, putting together in one room people, young people from all around the world. And this is the most extraordinary example that a young man or woman could have in the first years of their shaping of their personality and the beginning of their career. And last but not least, the fact that you are based in Switzerland, and namely in Geneva, which is such a extraordinary keeper of tradition, culture, and humanist approach, makes it even more extraordinary. Starting with the headquarters of your university, which are a piece of history themselves, and finishing with the way you tackle the issues of today with sense of responsibility, with generosity, and with what we ceased to talk about in the Western cultures, and which is the affection for our mankind, for the people around us, loving the others and trying to be good to them instead of being cynical, being responsible for them and for you rather than being critical, and so on. So thank you very much. We very much hope to be able to come to see you soon, and thank you again for this wonderful recognition that you offered us today.
My name is Benjamin Karp, and I am the student body president as well as a fellow master's student. Actor Kevin Kline once said, quote, "Great ambition and power without contribution is without significance." What will be your contribution? How will history remember you? End quote. Today, we are not graduating with just a degree, rather an international toolbox. This toolbox of new perspectives and ideas to help solve future and global crises stem through our fellow students and their international perspectives, as well as through thought-provoking lectures from our world-renowned faculty. I feel fulfillment and joy in life when my actions are contributing to society. The GSD environment has pushed us all to go beyond our comfort circle and not be complacent with the norm. Our administration and professors have created a thirst for knowledge and pushed us each of us, the students, to become citizens of the world. As Director of Development of a leading-edge healthcare company in New Orleans, Louisiana, I am planning to apply those skill sets that I learned here at GSD to enhance delivery of healthcare to remote areas of the world and become an integral player in global health policies. As each of us walk away from this campus along the journey called life, let us remember and hold true to our hearts the motto of our school: to govern is to serve.
It is good to finally graduate after 3 productive years of studying. The Geneva School of Diplomacy is such a unique place among other universities, and I'm happy to be part of the graduating class of 2020. Our university has prepared us for future careers, how to overcome any obstacles and keep moving forward. The active class discussions had every single student involved in the learning process. Moreover, the friendly environment and support from the administration encouraged students for future successes. I would like to thank all of our professors for sharing the valuable knowledge and experience with us. Also, I would like to express gratitude to the administration and the academic office for providing assistance on multiple issues. Lastly, I wish to thank my parents and everyone who has supported me throughout the course of my degree.
Honorable guests, dear fellow students, faculty, excellencies, dear ladies and gentlemen. It is my great honor to stand before you as a representative of the master's students. First and foremost, let me say, congratulations. We have finally finished our studies. One chapter ending and another one yet to begin. It is truly a unique historic time that we have lived and studied through. A global lockdown, digital exams, and with uncertainties faced everywhere. But besides uncertainties and challenges to overcome, I believe that many, many opportunities and chances lie ahead for us and a positive change. Because what we have learned, we should go and apply it with courage, strength, grace, and hope. Time now is calling for cooperation and acceptance and respect to lay the ground for a safe future for all. I would like to express my gratitude to the Geneva School of Diplomacy for all their efforts, help, and support getting us here. I would also like to thank my fellow students for the memories we have made and the lifelong bonds. With this, I would like to congratulate everybody once again, and thank you.
Dear classmates, families, and all our loved ones, our distinguished professors, and management of the Geneva School of Diplomacy and International Relations. I'm very delighted to share these exceptional minutes of a very special occasion in our life. I would like to express my sincere congratulations. This is a moment when we flash back to fascinating achievements as well as to generous knowledge that was heightened by our personal efforts, an immense mentorship of our professors, goodwill of the GSD management, and love of our families. Thank you for all of your continued support, warm attitude, and exciting atmosphere. Since the Thursday, remarkable education, unique life experience, friendship with like-minded people, these are the benefits and the basics for the further prosperity in our real life. The skills, high-quality knowledge gained during the studies in the field of international relations help us to understand the challenges of the global processes and strengthened us to be confident enough to make our personal contribution to this transforming world. Life moves forward, and between its ups and downs, the knowledge is the unique, maybe even the single resource that remains with us for the rest of the life, and no one can take away this priceless asset. Thank you for inspiring. Be lucky and keep hearts open. Once more, my sincere congratulations to the newest alumni.
Professors, GSD staff and administration, it is an honor for me to be standing here virtually in front of you today. Here we are, trying to recover from the social, political, economic, and professional consequences of COVID-19. And I feel privileged to have been able to finish my studies in time. However, I want to extend my sense of solidarity for those students whose education and livelihoods have been greatly impacted by COVID-19. The road to sustainable recovery lies in our hands, and we will rise to the challenge, I am sure of it. If there is something that I learned at GSD, is that we have a bright generation of young graduates entering the professional world today, eager to make a change on issues ranging all the way from climate change to counterterrorism. I am so grateful for all the kindness, wittiness, mentorship, and guidance provided to me by GSD faculty. These are all academic pundits that have excelled in their field of expertise and that are willing to share their insider experience on numerous areas of multilateral diplomacy and international relations. In Dr. Murphy's words, I truly believe that my experience at GSD has been second to none, but not only in the academic sense. At GSD, I have developed amazing friendships and I have made valuable connections, but most importantly, I have forged a future. Being located in the international hub of Geneva allowed me to land an internship at the United Nations Office for Disarmament Affairs and in several diplomatic missions located no more than 2 kilometers away from GSD. Throughout my master's degree, I have accomplished personal, professional, and academic achievements that I thought were once impossible to achieve. So today I celebrate my graduation, and I thank each and every one of you for being a part of it. Farewell.
Dear faculty, dear students, dear friends and families, it is my honor today to deliver the graduation speech on behalf of the Executive Master Students of 2020. I applied for the Executive Master in International Relations program with the ambition to deepen my knowledge of foreign policy and international relations, to gain insights into the dynamics of international politics on a global level, and to improve my diplomatic skills. Given the reputation of the Geneva School of Diplomacy, I have to admit my expectations were high. And not only were my expectations met completely, but I also look back at an incredibly exciting and rewarding time during which I profited a lot and received an excellent education. Indeed, from the very beginning I felt privileged to learn from the outstanding lecturers and professors that my fellow students and I got to meet during our studies at GSD. Working with brilliant diplomats and practitioners from different fields reinforced my interest and passion for diplomacy and international relations, and I look forward to implementing my newly acquired skills in my day-to-day work. One aspect that stood out across the various topics that were covered during our studies is the fact that we live in volatile, uncertain and complex times. Never before has the world seen more significant inequalities, both between countries and continents and within societies. Furthermore, the world is facing various challenges that are global of nature, ranging from pandemics and the erosion of democratic systems to the most severe threats of climate change and global warming. While the necessary responses to all of the global challenges are different, they do share one common theme: the urgent need to promote and protect human rights in a complex and constantly evolving world. Here, the world needs a new generation of leaders. Leaders that are well educated, charismatic, and able to address the challenges of 21st century diplomacy. Leaders that master the skills to deal with challenges at the regional, national, and global level. Having met so many of my fellow students during my studies at GSD, I am convinced that we are celebrating the new generation of new leaders at today's graduation ceremony. Hence, I want to conclude by thanking the faculty of the Geneva School of Diplomacy for all the opportunities they provided us with, and I wish all the graduates of 2020 all the best for their future endeavors, and I encourage everyone to work hard, stay focused, and make history.
Mr. President, academic and management staff, graduating and continuing students, I feel highly honored to be selected to represent the 2020 DIR graduates at today's grand and historical 2020 graduation ceremony of our great institution, Geneva School of Diplomacy and International Relations. I strongly feel that today's activities are a landmark achievement for our prestigious institution. My 5 years academic journey from 2015 to 2020 at the Geneva School of Diplomacy was interesting but challenging at the same time. But with commitment, determination, and most importantly, the support and encouragement of my supervisor, and indeed the academic department, today I'm happy and extremely proud of my academic achievement. The contemporary global situation, particularly COVID-19, the global protests against racism, nuclear arms buildup, unwarranted conflict among nations, and the weak position of the United Nations are all a wake-up call for which we need to reinforce the need for more young and vibrant professionals in the field of diplomacy and international relations. Therefore, we need to kickstart our commitment towards world peace, diplomacy, conflict resolution, democracy promotion, peaceful coexistence between nations. Consequently, our learning experience should be a lifetime weapon that we can use towards enhancing human rights, freedom, gender equality, and a more peaceful world to live in. By doing that, we will surely continue to uplift the good image of Geneva School of Diplomacy and International Relations at the global arena. We remain forever indebted with extreme gratitude for what we have learned here. The support and the encouragement from various project supervisors, the academic department, and the entire GSD staff for making our dream a reality is highly appreciated. I look forward to seeing everyone next year in Geneva for the fiscal graduation ceremony. I wish all our 2020 graduating students a prosperous career in diplomacy and international relations. Thank you all and God bless.
Welcome class of 2020. It's an honor and a pride for us here at GSD to welcome you in the day of your graduation. It is a special graduation because these are special times. GSD has been at the cutting edge of transformational changes and has prepared you to go out in the world, to be the leaders that will make humanity better. Particularly this year, I'm particularly proud to have taught you global health and international relations. COVID-19, as we started this year, all of us working in global health have been challenged to manage this pandemic. As a global health professional for the last 20 years, working in international organizations, academia like Gsd, private sector, never before have I experienced in my life such a thing. This has been like a war, and we had to adapt to all the challenges that this contemporary and modern one have brought before us. It's never going to be the same anymore. We do need a multilateral, multi-sectorial, multi-stakeholder, everybody today from all different parts of the world has to be implicated not only in the response and the adaptation. This is going to transform our society. This is going to bring us to a new normal, and we need to be all together to design and live the new normal. All different agencies, the scientists around the world, the private sector, the private-public partnership, have probably for the first time to come together to understand this virus. It is a common effort. It is an effort of the whole society. And only by working together, we will, with no interest, with no hidden agenda, but only with the passion and committed to win this war, we will face the pandemic, we will resolve it, and we will enter in a new phase of society and humanity. Thank you very much.
So, dear graduates, and indeed your loved ones who supported you through all of your studies, you've played such an important role in this. This brings us to the end of our very special graduation 2020 in the face of this pandemic virus. I want to conclude by saying that in the 5th century BC, a great struggle took place between Sparta and Athens, the Peloponnesian War, as Thucydides tells us. On the one side, democratic Athens, open, commercial, highly cultured. On the other side, Sparta, closed, totalitarian, militaristic. Sparta won. A very long and very deadly and very important war. But in the modern age, which you've also studied and worked hard in understanding, fortunately it was the democracies that won against fascism in the Second World War. Democracy and human rights and ideas of dignity. Not only Franklin Roosevelt's help in creating the United Nations, but his wife's contribution in terms of creating the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So we think of Sparta, we think of the modern struggles. In a way, the score, my graduate friends, is 1-1, 1-1. The playoffs are still ahead of us. And so please use this pandemic to think, is the future world ahead of you, where you are not only congratulated in joining us, but you are more than welcome and you are needed? Is your future world, which you will help lead, going to be a victory for totalitarian ideas? Or a victory for democracy and human rights? A strengthened, not a weakened United Nations. It's right next door to me, the United Nations, as I stand here. And its budget, its regular budget is less than the budget of the cities of New York and London combined. The entire regular budget of the United Nations, just behind me, is less than the budget of 4 or 5 major McDonald's outlets. But we are strong in making our voices heard. Right here, where I stand nearby, was a huge protest just last night against the killing of George Floyd in the United States. So the pandemic makes us distance ourselves socially. Please observe that. But it also brings us closer together in understanding what's at stake. The remaining danger of nuclear war, still very much a danger. What's happening in your own observation to the climate, to our planet. What's happening to human rights and the massive intrusion on our privacy supported by even major powers. And so I congratulate you today, and I bring this ceremony to a close, a very successful graduation day, though an unusual one, by saying how very much the contribution of each and every one of you is needed. That's not rhetoric. All of us must get into this struggle for a better world, otherwise the world will be a very much worse world that you can already see deteriorating around you. So my heartfelt congratulations. I'm not only pleased with this graduation, I'm proud of each and every one of you. Please, you are now called from the ranks. Your courage may be tested, and I am certain that any one of you, and I know you all well, any one of you would do better as a leader than many of the leaders we have today in the world, because today's leadership is worse than mediocrity. You are the future. You and other groups of young people like you around the world. So I'm very, very happy to graduate you today, to officially announce your conferral, that's the bachelor's program, the MIR, the master's program, the EMIR, the executive master's program, and the doctorate program. As of now, you are graduates, but we expect and look forward to seeing you next year for a more open ceremony where you wear your robes, you'll be handed your diploma, but as of now, you are graduates of the Geneva School of Diplomacy, and we thank you. Goodbye.